Hello, my beautiful, gorgeous dance baby, and welcome to another episode of More Than Dance. Today, we are discussing role models and the power of role models. I am going to take you back to a very distinct memory of mine, and it was when I first started to understand the concept of role models from a perspective of like not even knowing what that word even was. So I was young, I could have been 7. And I remember sitting at dress rehearsal for one of my recitals and just seeing the big girls. And if you know that the big girls were the older girls. They were the people that were in high school when you were a little girl, and they were doing the cool dances, the cool songs, the cool moves, the awesome costumes. They were hot. They were sexy, even though we didn't even know what that word was. They were just awesome. And I remember sitting with my friend, and we would like get really, really excited for certain parts in the routine. And it's funny because a lot of them, to call them a role model, right? Like we could need to know something about them potentially. And we didn't really know a lot about them. What we did know though were that they were awesome dancers and that we wanted to be like them and that we wanted the cool costumes and that we wanted to like get that opportunity to do this. Oh my gosh, like there was this crazy lift that this girl used to do where she used to like stand on her feet and then like count to 4 and then like go all the way back, lay flat, and then come back up. And it was just something that we got so excited to watch. And given that we were at dress rehearsal all day, I know we got to see it like plenty of times. And because it was like the move, like it was something that they repeated often, even through the next year and the year after. Yeah, so I just remember like this memory of sitting next to my friend, getting excited, like probably just being like, oh my God, like here it's gonna be, like let's watch this really cool part. And the excitement that came from that. And then also the possibilities. So when you have a role model, you are shown the possibilities. You are shown what can be possible for you. And so right now, I just invite you to like sit down and think about maybe the first time that you ever felt connected to someone that ended up being a role model, or someone in the moment you actually knew that they were role models. So it's kind of funny because in this situation, like I didn't know that they were role models. I just knew that they were like really cool. But like the concept of like what a role model wasn't really like something I knew about because I was that young. So you're either thinking about something like in that kind of perspective or something where right now you're very conscious of like who your exact role model is. And just take a minute and think about it and think about them and think about what they mean to you. And then I want you to think about the 3-5 things that is made possible for you because of this person. So when I think about role models that I have right now, I see them through my DJ world. I have a lot of DJ role models, and I love them. I am, one, so grateful for them, and two, I am so impressed and inspired by, one, their work ethic, two, their organization, and three, their talent and their knowledge. So when I think about my few things, it's based off of that. And for you, it could be, in the realm of dance or in the realm of the professional world. It could just be like something that you're wishing to attain to. Now, we kind of talked about role models when we talked about comparison. And we were talking about how comparison is the thief of joy, but is it really? Actually, no, it's obsession, and kind of just got into this like Socratic seminar about what comparison is. Because what I believe comparison brings true for you is things that you want to bring into your life. Because if we are comparing, we are acknowledging where we are now and where we wish to be. And that is a comparison. And we know that there are healthy comparisons just like that one. And then there are unhealthy comparisons. And if you want to hear about this episode, I believe this was episode 2, so you can scroll down and listen to that first. So when we think about these healthy comparisons, we think about the way in which we create goals for ourselves and what is possible within someone's world, and someone that is maybe a role model to you is something that you hope to bring into your life, or something that you're like, well, wow, there's some precedent. So now I know that this is possible. It can be really amazing when you realize this because it's reassuring and it's telling you like, hey, you're not alone. People want to do this. People are doing this. You won't be paving the path alone. And so taking us real quickly back to when we were kids, we were seeing something we didn't know what was possible, right? Because we didn't have like the analytic advancement in our brains when we were kids to even like do that. But we saw what made us excited to learn more. And I think that's a great phrase to hold on to for a second, because when you have a great role model, that inspiration and that acknowledgement of their talent or what they do on a day-to-day basis is telling you and teaching you like, hey, here's the road. And maybe if you do like this person to a degree, right? Because we need more knowledge to really like figure it out. You can be like this person and you can do what they do. And when we were looking at these girls, we knew like, okay, well, let's deduct some things that need to be possible. Well, one, we need to grow. Two, we need boobies. Like I just remember boobs. I don't know. It was, it was just something like when you're a little girl, you're like, oh wow, like look at them, they're older. And three, I just remember pleather. I remember pleather outfits. We need pleather outfits and boobs. We need what's behind that is, dedication and feeling like you have a path that could be concrete that you can follow. So steps, kind of like a maze or a scavenger hunt in a way. It's like, here's what we're doing and here's how to get there. Well, here are these amazing people that you're currently looking up to, or here's this amazing person that you're currently looking up to. How did they get there? And is that the road that I'm going to take too? Or is that a road that they took and now guess what? Maybe they have a shortcut for me. And that's why role models can sometimes be mentors, and mentors can be so helpful to your journey. And it's kind of like cutting off the excess, because in road terms, maybe they took a mile to get there and they're like, hey, by the way, you can get here too, and you can cut off a quarter of a mile and still get here. Here's a shortcut. And I think that's what is exciting when I think about role models, is I think about the possibility of potentially interviewing them or learning more about them and seeing what their day-to-day looks like, and not making assumptions that maybe they're working like themselves to the ground, or maybe they are. And maybe I get to check myself and be like, okay, well, like they worked this hard. You get to work that hard too. So it kind of opens up more awareness for us, which if you know me and you know this podcast, you know we love awareness here, and we love to create awareness because it tells us where we are currently. And role models and mentors are telling you where you get to go if you want to. So let's dive in a little bit more. Now, you've already thought about your experience when maybe the first time you had a role model or the first time you had a mentor. Or maybe it's a current one right now where you're like, actually, this is my role model right now, and these are the steps that I'm taking. So I think one of the most important things you get to do, especially if you do have the opportunity to have a mentor, because sometimes mentors are mentors and they have that mentor-mentee relationship, and it's just kind of like beautiful and natural. And then sometimes you can pay for a mentor, and a teacher is very much a mentor because they're teaching you what they know and they're telling you the fastest way to get there on purpose. They're teaching you, hey, like this is what I did and you can do this instead and still get here. So that's like kind of like the fast track of learning it, where maybe they made a bunch of mistakes and they're like, hey, just so you know, I'm going to teach you that I did this first, and I'm going to tell you why you never want to do that. And you just saved yourself maybe a day or half a day or 30 minutes, or, in the case of DJing, maybe like messing up files on your USB and then having to redo it. So we get to be so grateful for whatever it is that our investment is. And maybe the investment is actually time. So right now, if you're part of a dance community or you're looking to take classes, your role models will soon become the people that are in the class, the veterans, and obviously, yes, the teacher, who becomes more of like mentor role model position. And when you spend your time and your energy investing in yourself, these partnerships and these relationships become more apparent in your life. And it takes me back to that phrase, you are the company you keep, or you are the 5 people you spend the most time with. And that's why it's important sometimes to really think about those people. Who are your 5 people that you spend the most time with? And when you think about those people, do you like where they're at? Do you like what they're doing? Do you like what they stand for? And if not, move along. And that's easier said than done. Trust me, I know. And if you do, lean in. And I think it's so funny, like the wealth of knowledge, because it's like everyone wants to share knowledge. right? And when we think about, there's so much knowledge to share. For instance, when I'm spending time with DJs, I get to really like delve into the DJ world, and I love it. I don't get to do that with the 5 people I spend the most time with. Maybe a little bit here and there. So when I broaden my network, I get to spend more time with people that are more niche down into things that I'm doing or things that I'm bringing into my life. And going back to this idea of teaching, right? Like if you have a mentor, they're teaching you something. When you have a role model not necessarily teaches you something. It's kind of like their way of being. It's like the way that they stand, it's their presence. So like back when I was like a little girl and I was looking at the big girls with their pleather on stage, like I was like, oh, like, wow, like I want to be that. And it was, like I said, I didn't really know much about them. They weren't teaching us things. They later did become like assistant teachers and they did teach us. But at that time, that exact moment, they were not. And I still was learning something from them. So they don't have to be a direct teacher to be a role model. I think it's also interesting how role models, like in this case, it's very much the cycle of the universe, the cycle of life. And it's like, there they are. There are role models. And then we grow and we become, and we are the role models for the next generation of dancers. And I even saw that recently. I made friends with dancers at the beach. It was just evident that that tradition is still happening at my old dance studio because I saw photos of the girls who were the big girls and like the little girls on the sidelines, just like looking at them with awe. So it's just something that we do. And I'm sure if you're a dance baby and you've been dancing in your youth, you can bring yourself back to this moment as well and maybe share some of the same memories of this as I do. So I think when we think about this cycle of life, when we become a role model, it's important to continue our search for a role model or bring in people into our lives who we can look up to, because we don't want to become complacent, do we? I know I don't. I don't want to get to a certain level and just stay there and be stagnant. I want to continue my growth and I want to advance. And with all things, I want to do that with dance, with teaching, with DJing, with the boudoir studio, with my relationship with Josh, my relationship with others. I feel like I'm always searching for deep understanding of what's possible and where I could, cut the fat, where I could be better, where I could be maybe making something simpler in my head to understand something. So to be able to do that, we get to find more role models. We get to find people in our lives that we want to be like, because once you've become, baby, and you need to level up. So we need someone else to show us the way and what's possible. Okay, well, now that I'm here, it's kind of like video games, I would imagine, because when you get to like a certain level, you're like, all right, well, I got to this level. And cool, like there's another 15 levels to get to, and you might not know the code. I know there's like some like codes and stuff, and like, oh, like once you get this, and you kind of have people showing you the way, showing you the path. And if you know, like, okay, well, this person, they got to level 16, you're like, oh my gosh, I didn't even know there was a level 16. And then it like somehow was a secret with the manufacturer. They were like, you know what, we're going to like have this secret level 15 and they're going to think it only goes up to 15. And then someone's going to figure it out and it's going to be possible. And there's going to be level 16 and level 17, but like they won't really know it from the beginning. Then you're like, you hear this thing on Reddit and you're like, oh my gosh, this is possible. You can get into this level. Like who knew? And then everyone's finding it out and they're figuring out how to do it. And like, yeah. So what one person does shows you the way. They become a role model. You have leveled up yourself now to level whatever, and now you want to go past level 15 and into level 17. And guess what? As we grow, we're getting new levels every time that we plateau. And we talked about plateaus before and what to do about them. Pattern interruption. There's a beautiful episode on that, episode 30 something. And when we get that opportunity to level up, to find more role models, we get to be closer to the things that we want into our life. And when we find those things that are in our life that we really want to attract, we become fuller. We feel happier. We have more symbiosis, is the word that just came to mind. We have more balance, harmony. Things become better overall. unless there's tragedy, obviously. Then everything's horrible. So always want to acknowledge that that's always a possibility, and that brings challenges in its own way and levels you up in a way that you probably didn't even want or ask for. So when you realize that you're the person in the shoes of the role model, it's kind of fun to just acknowledge like what we do innately. We might notice it, and maybe you don't notice it right away that someone's looking up to you. And then at that point, I would just say like, take a look and see how people like are around you. Like, do they ask questions about you? Do they want to know more about you? Are you open to sharing abundance? And I think when I notice this, because I do think that there are people that look up to me, and if it's not me that they look up to, it could be like my work ethic that they look up to, or that things that I make happen that they might look up to. But it's nice to just like, and not in a conceited way, but it's nice to kind of acknowledge like things that you are doing on a daily basis that are important to you, to recognize that there comes some type of responsibility when you do have people looking at you and looking up to you. And the responsibility really comes from knowing that it's important to someone else. And this is where we talk about the ripple effect. And we talked about how you could be so surprised that you are part of the ripple effect, and what you do, like you never know like where something can go. I tell my students this, like when they post a video of themselves, you could post a video of yourself dancing and someone can see it and it can start them on a journey of sewing. It has nothing to do with dance at that moment, really. It does though, because everything has to do with dance. But them seeing like, oh my gosh, wow, like they just started dancing. Like, wow, that's a brand new skill. I've always wanted to start sewing. And then they start sewing. And it's because they saw you, a role model, and there happened the ripple effect. And that's inspiration. And so when we think, I think a little more outside ourselves than in ourselves, we can do more because we're not self-critical. If we know that we have this bigger purpose and this bigger thing to share, then we're not going to be so stuck. And I find myself getting stuck sometimes when we're filming these podcasts. I'm like, I could say that better. I could say that better. You know, trying to move through it and know that like the bigger picture is that there's a message being shared for a podcast, or the bigger picture is, you know, like last night we were making a post, 3 months of podcasting. Yay. And I was like so caught up in, it wasn't right. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't all of that stuff that, you know, I work through just as hard as you're working through. Through that comes the message of, well, you got the video up. Well, you got the podcast out. And we've talked about this before too, but I really do want to go in deeper on this idea. And it's this idea of consistency and intensity. And when you turn the intensity up, you could be turning the consistency down. And if you turn the consistency down, well, then there's nothing to intensify. So it's really creating this like ultimate balance of how you can have consistency with a healthy volume of intensity. So if it's too intense, you don't get just distraught and you're like, I don't want to do it at all. And it's low enough that progress is getting to be made and you're still doing it. So sometimes I'm like, okay, this is where that like idea of get it done B+ comes from. Remember that episode with my mom? Like it's getting it done B+, making sure something is done for it and you get it out there. So in your case, yeah, maybe the dance video isn't perfect. Maybe it's not what you wanted. Maybe it shows you messing up. And you put it out there and you might not even know about, you know, that person who started taking up sewing until like a year later. And they're like, hey, you know, I saw your video like a year ago and it really got me started on my sewing journey. And you're like, oh my God, that's so cute. And it's having that grace with yourself to be like, yo, I just posted this video. I'm just going to put it out there. And one of my friends, she was just in a piano concert and she shared with me her recital video. And I loved watching it so much because she was so gentle with herself. And in the song, she just takes this like pause. She like just kind of paused in the middle of the song. This is what I observed. And she just like, I guess I didn't really see her fingers, but I think she like placed her hands and then like hit the exact note that she kind of like paused over. And then she went about. So when we were talking about it, she was like, oh, did you see that I messed up? And I was like, no, I saw this beautiful pause that you had and like you thoughtfully like placed your hands to get the note. And she was like, oh, but I like messed up after that and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, I didn't see that. What I saw was you being so gentle with yourself in the learning process and doing a piano recital and getting out there and sharing with people, sharing your gift and being brave. And it was awesome. And at this event, I believe there are like kids and stuff that go to it, and her doing that and taking that minute for her pause could have very well been an inspirational moment for someone else sitting there watching, even if they weren't a kid, even if they were adult. I mean, like I found it inspirational. I was like, wow, you did that. You owned your F up, right? We talk about that, rehearsing your F up. So what an honor it is to, one, be a role model, and two, to have a role model. This gift of sharing confidence and sharing inspiration and sharing artistry, it's really cool. And we get to do it through what we are observing. So we talked about looking up to role models. We also talked about when you become the role model, that little like cycle of life. And we also can talk about when we look sideways and we get to see our peers and our friends growing with us, doing amazing things. And so that was actually a beautiful moment of me looking sideways to one of my friends and seeing her practicing literally what I preach on the dance floor of the show must go on. And if you keep your inside face inside, no one will ever know. And that's exactly what I told her. I was like, oh my gosh, you like did exactly what we talk about on the dance floor in just a different manner on a piano. So that becomes really inspiring as well. And another way to really connect with this concept of role models and mentoring. And side kind of note is how much overlap there is within trades, the art of being a pianist and musician and dancing and sewing, all these skills, they really do have similar layers to them with learning and with showcasing. And we get to realize that we're all just carrying this torch in our own way and throughout our own skills. And this is what gets to keep art alive, what keeps inspiration alive. Because if we all just sat there as the now role models and there's no level up, then that's it. Like that's the end, and it's not. So when we advance our skills, we call in more people. Maybe we see parallels more. So for instance, in my DJ world, I'm watching myself invest in new equipment and level up my skills, and I'm continuing to take lessons. And the very similar thing is in dance. So I can take those ideas and also bring them to the dance floor and vice versa. So when I'm doing different styles on the dance floor and choreographing, I can think about that in terms of DJing. Like, oh, hey, what style of music could I bring in to this party or to this gig and have it be inspired, or something that was like, I can't believe she played that and like also it worked. That kind of comment, I love those. And then the same can be true like when I bring DJing into my dance world. Maybe I'm playing for whatever reason a lot of 80s-ish or like early 90s stuff, and I'm like, oh, like maybe I can take some of those styles that were very concrete styles of dance, the jazz that was back then and the hip hop dance that was back then, or even like in the late 90s, the way that movement was done, very different to now. And so maybe bringing some of that in. So it's really cool to see like how all of these different layers of art connect and can be brought together. So when you do look sideways and you see people just like soaring in their own worlds or their own zones, that can also be of inspiration to you, and you can bring it into your own life. And then the cycle again is like, if you're bringing it in from sideways and then you are the role model to someone else, you're also bringing it down, and then you get to bring it up, because then you get to look up to your role models and be like, ooh, are they doing something like this that I just saw over here? It becomes this really cool fluid transaction of all these different modes of creative energy. So here is your reminder to know that someone might be watching you and looking up to you right now, even on the days that you are doubting yourself and thinking less of yourself. So hold yourself with poise and presence and confidence, knowing that you are the inspiration to someone else, so that you get to continue the ripple effect of creative energy, inspiration, and work ethic. And if you really want to excel in a fast way, you get to look for and call in a mentor. So have fun with this concept. Maybe check in on your friends and see like, hey, like, what are you working on? Like, see how you can emulate this circle of transactional creative juice and see how it can benefit you this week. So if this was helpful for you, I would absolutely love to ask you for a 5-star written review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Thank you so much, and I'll see you on the dance floor.